Good evening and welcome back to Prime of Midlife. It's Wednesday evening. We are halfway through the final week before Christmas. And this evening we're talking about the cost of living. Not so much what it's costing us, but how we're being affected by it just now, because today, this week, this month, there are a number of strikes on in the country. And whether you agree with them or not, they're happening. And whether you agree with them or not, they're not going to stop anytime soon. Now, personally, I fully support the people on strike, especially the NHS staff. And what really irks me at the moment is the way the UK government is trotting out minister after minister, and certainly with the NHS, they're saying, well, do you know, there's an independent review body has decided this pay rise, and so we're not going to discuss pay. What a load of codswallop is all I can say to that, because that is no more an independent review body than fleeing the air. That body was started by the government, it is sponsored by the government gives it the details, and yes, they speak to people from the NHS, and yes, they speak to people from the unions. Do they listen to them? Obviously not, or the NHS would not have had a -% pay rise in real terms over the last 10 years. And they certainly wouldn't have got the crappy pay rise that they got last year. An independent pay review board is sponsored by the UK government, so it is not what I personally would call independent. And you have all these politicians, and I mean the way they are putting out the narrative on the certain mainstream media, shall we say, but oh, I hope you can live with yourself if people die while you're on strike, because this is a big thing that they're using with the ambulance strikers. I hope you can live with yourself if someone dies when you're on strike. How many times do you think they've had to live with themselves when someone's died while they've been waiting for hours outside a hospital because there's not the nursing staff to be able to turn people around and to move people into wards? Don't you think they've already done this? Don't you think they've already experienced this? And trying to hang them out to dry in the court of public opinion is not working, because you in your little gilded cage in the Houses of Parliament, you have no idea what it's like to stand in the front line of the NHS. No idea whatsoever. And the fact that you're standing there going, how can they do this to people? This is all, the nurses are to blame, the ambulance drivers are to blame. No, they're not. I'm sorry, they're not. These are highly trained professional staff who deserve to have their efforts recognised, who deserve to have their experience, their training, their help for the country through the pandemic. They deserve to have that recognised. They do not deserve to be struggling. If you are demanding a degree from someone, they should not be in penury when they get a job. That was the whole point of getting degrees, was that you were that bit better trained than others, and it was reflected in your pay, so that your take-home pay was a lot more, or if not a lot more, it was enough to be noticeable. Now, degrees are getting handed out willy-nilly, and the wage rates are not reflecting the work that has to be done, because you can't hand out a nurse's degree willy-nilly. I have sat with them. I have sat with them going through that dirty, great, big, thick book that they talk about with medications and stuff, because I was sitting at my father's bedside when he was ill. And I remember having the discussion, because for once it was actually a drug that I knew about. I don't know about many, but it was a drug for treating, or that Dad had had or Mum had had or something, and I actually knew about it. So we sat and we discussed it. They're doing that while they're on the wards. They're doing that in their tea breaks. They're studying for years. They deserve to have that effort recognised. But our government, no. It's sitting there and it's given at large about how bad they are and how dreadful they are and how they're treating the public dreadfully. Funny that. I'm part of that public. And I think the government's treating everyone dreadfully. And I think that without the unions and without these strikes, this government would still be trying to give the public sector 1% and would be trying to screw everybody else into the ground. Now, on top of this, I had another wee thought. There was an article somewhere, you know me, I read so much, that said they're employing another 2,000 people in the benefit system to try and count the fraud, to try and catch the fraudsters. 2,000 people they're putting in the benefit system. I would rather they put 2,000 people into the tax system, the corporate tax system, so that these multi-billion multinational companies actually pay a decent amount of tax. Because what is absolutely horrific is the fact that our government is paying them millions while they pay no tax. They actually get tax credits. And then you get the auditors who have just been found guilty of all sorts of things, making sure that they don't have to pay tax. Maybe, Mr. Sunak, maybe you should get these 2,000 people that you're training to find fraud, you should maybe get them to find it in the corporate tax world, because I'm quite sure that if you find fraud in the corporate tax world, the payback is going to be a lot more than a few months extra dole money that someone had. Don't you think? So yes, that is my thought for today. I am absolutely scunnered with the way that the government and the mainstream media are treating these people who have worked so hard for so little for so long. And personally, if Mr. Sunak chooses this to be his hill to die on, good luck, mate, because I wouldn't. Because there's way too many people now have realised that enough is enough and we're not doing it anymore. So there you go. I will catch you later.